morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Saigal.
And I'm Hemkaur Saroya, and on the show today, US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to prepare a huge migrant detention center at Guantanamo Bay, which will hold up to 30,000 immigrants deported from the United States. Hitting out at the plan, the Cuban president has called it an act of brutality. We'll get you the latest on this on the show today.
Also on World DNA, we put the focus in West Asia. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, Israeli strike in West Bank has killed 10 people amid the Gaza ceasefire. Meanwhile, Israel is set to release 110 prisoners in exchange for 3 Israeli hostages. Hamas will also release 5 Thai nationals. We'll get you the latest. Lots more lined up on the show today. Let's get you started with the headlines.
Judicial probe ordered after stampede at world's largest religious gathering killed at least 30 people. The tragedy took place after surging crowds spilled out and trampled bystanders at the Kumbh Mela on a day which saw over 75 million take the holy dip.
Today, I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it.
US President Donald Trump signs Laken Riley Act against illegal immigrants, says he plans to detain 30,000 criminal illegal aliens at Guantanamo Bay military prison.
President of the Democratic Republic of Congo says his military is undertaking a vigorous response as Rwanda-backed fighters advance in the east, condemns inaction of the international community.
Rebel leader Ahmed al-Shara appointed interim president of Syria after meeting of military commanders. All armed factions dissolved, constitution suspended.
Indian carrier Air India announces the resumption of its non-stop services between Delhi and Tel Aviv from the 2nd March.
Manchester City survive a scare against Club Brugge in the final group game of the Champions League. The 2023 winners will now face either holders Real Madrid or Bayern Munich in the playoff. Our top focus in World DNA, US President Donald Trump said that he plans to detain criminal illegal aliens at the notorious Guantanamo Bay military prison.
Now, Trump made the announcement as he signed a bill allowing the pre-trial detention of undocumented migrants charged with theft and violent crime.
Today, I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo.
The Laken Riley Act, named for a 22-year-old U.S. student murdered by a Venezuelan migrant, is the first piece of legislation signed by Trump since he returned to power. The Republican-led U.S. Congress has passed the law just 2 days after Trump's inauguration on January 20th. Trump hosted the parents of Riley at the White House for this ceremony.
Signing today, the Department of Homeland Security will be required to detain all illegal aliens who have been arrested for theft, burglary, larceny, shoplifting, assaulting a police officer, murder, or any crime that results in death or serious injury. In addition, for the first time ever, this act gives state governments the ability to sue the federal government for immediate injunctive relief if any future administration ever again refuses to enforce the immigration laws of the United States.
Now, before Trump's announcement on Guantanamo Bay, his Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, had told media that the administration was evaluating and talking about using the facility for migrants, calling it an asset. The Guantanamo Bay prison was opened in the wake of the 9/11 attacks. It has been used to indefinitely hold detainees, many of whom were never charged with the crime seized during the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and other operations that followed. Former Democratic President Joe Biden and Barack Obama both pledged to close the facility, but both left office with the prison still open.
With Trump's crackdown in full force, the Texas National Guard's Tactical Border Force members conducted joint security training exercises with the Texas Department of Public Safety and U.S. Border Patrol along the U.S.-Mexico border. The operation deployed 400 Tactical Border Force troops at the Anzala Duas Park in Mission, Texas. Chinook helicopters and other aircraft were prominently featured in the exercises. And well, for more on this, we are now being joined by Richie Greenberg from San Francisco. He is a political commentator and former mayor contestant for San Francisco. Welcome to World DNA, Mr. Greenberg.
Thank you for having me.
First, sir, what do you make of Trump's latest crackdown on immigration, where he has ordered the expansion of detention centers, the Guantanamo Bay detention centers, to 30,000? We know it earlier had 15 prisoners to now 30,000 expansion. The Guantanamo Bay is also known for its human rights violations. So your assessment of his latest crackdown?
Yes, well, it's important to differentiate between the two different types of aliens, illegal aliens, as they're now calling those individuals that have entered or are staying in U.S. territory without permission. We've been seeing over the past week to 10 days that there's been very active deportation flights that the government has been operating to remove those who have been already detained in various cities with ICE, the Immigration Customs Enforcement agents, along in some cities, assisted by local police or state police, to take these individuals and return them back to their home countries, such as in Mexico, Ecuador, and elsewhere. But what we're seeing now, and that with this very bold order that Trump has signed this morning, is to deal with those individuals that are even more heinous criminals, those that are known gang members, those that are international drug traffickers, and those that are terrorists that have been released from jails in other countries. That's, so, for example, in Venezuela, the government does not want to even give them back to their home country because we don't know if they're going to wind up finding their way to return back to U.S. territory again. And that's what this is all about. The 30,000 bed detention area of Guantanamo Bay is what's going to be used to hold these individuals along with other types of criminals.
Right. So also, just to expand on that, the Cuban president has hit out at this plan, calling it brutal. There also seems to be a growing pushback from other countries on Trump's mass deportation plans. On ground, how would you assess this impacts the U.S. immigration and customs operations?
Well, it is very interesting to see some interviews with those individuals who have actually been returned back to their homes, those that have landed in their countries, and then they are interviewed as they exit the plane and they're on their home soil. They are giving warnings to other people that are within their home country to not come to the United States. They say, don't try coming here. You're going to be removed. You're going to be deported. So even though there is some pushback, even though there is some condemnation that we're seeing from certain key countries, I think that overall it's going to have a very good effect to try and send the message that the border is closed. And if you are a criminal that have somehow made it to U.S. territory over the past few years, that you're not going to be allowed to stay and you are going to be removed. And especially with Guantanamo Bay, if you are a major criminal, one who is involved with drug trafficking or with murder or with anything like that you were perpetrated over the years and you've been let out of your home country's jails and made it to the U.S., you're going to be held not back in your home country, but in Guantanamo Bay.
Right, Mr. Greenberg, I also want to talk about the cost at this point of time, with Trump proposing of having 30,000 beds at the Guantanamo Bay. Earlier, there were 15 prisoners being held and now a jump to 30,000 beds. What about the cost? Because holding immigrants in such facilities by far is the largest cost of deportation procedure.
Yes, of course. That is always a concern. The thing is that you look at what is the cost of the U.S. people, to the residents, to me, to families here that are potentially targets of these criminals for theft, for robbery, for the drug trafficking and the fentanyl crisis that we all know around the world has been affecting the major cities. This is the trade-off, and it is more important to keep our country safe. So the costs are going to be justified, of course, to give national security and security to us residents.
Right, Mr. Greenberg, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA with your insights.
My pleasure.
The White House has insisted that Donald Trump's plan to freeze federal funding remains in full force.
Despite cancelling an order to government departments about the halt, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has said that the White House's Office of Management of Budget rescinded a memo ordering the freeze to end any confusion.
Well, this after a federal judge halted the order shortly before it was to take effect. Trump's decision to freeze funding for federal aid programs could disrupt education, healthcare, poverty programs, housing assistance, disaster relief, and several other initiatives that depend on federal dollars.
Meanwhile, Trump has also announced that any government employee who fails to turn up in person for work by the 6th of February will be fired. This as the president pursues a purge in the federal workforce of officials deemed unsupportive of his agenda.
As federal employees, they must meet a high standard. They're representing our government. They're representing our country. If they don't agree by February 6th to show up back to work in their office, they will be terminated, and we will therefore be downscaling our government, which is something that the last 10 presidents have tried very hard to do but failed.
In the latest in his flurry of orders, Trump has signed an executive order to combat anti-Semitism that targets pro-Palestinian activists, including student demonstrators. The order instructs federal agencies to explore ways to deport resident aliens, such as students with visas who engaged in pro-Palestinian demonstrations last year. The department and agency leaders will be required to provide recommendations to the White House within 60 days. The order instructs the Department of Justice to probe pro-Hamas graffiti and intimidation, including incidents on college campuses. It also allows for the cancellation of student visas of those who broke the law during the demonstrations.
And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., during a high-stakes confirmation hearing to become U.S. President Donald Trump's health secretary, came under attack from Democratic senators.
And that is over his history of promoting vaccine misinformation and his sudden embrace of anti-abortion policies.
Kennedy pushed back against the criticism in his opening statement, insisting that the news reports have claimed that he is anti-vaccine and anti-industry. But he is neither. He is pro-safety.
I am pro-safety. I worked for years to raise awareness about the mercury and toxic chemicals in fish, and nobody called me anti-fish. And I believe that that vaccines play a critical role in healthcare. All of my kids are vaccinated. I've written many books on vaccines. My first book in 2014, the first line of it is, I am not anti-vaccine, and the last line is, I am not anti-vaccine. Nor am I the enemy of food producers. American farms are the bedrock of our culture, of our politics, of our national security.
The 71-year-old Kennedy and former environmental lawyer is vying to lead a health department overseeing more than 80,000 employees and a $1.7 trillion budget. The post of health secretary is a key federal government position that oversees public health issues, including medical research, food safety, and public welfare programs.
Critics argue that he is unqualified for the post, citing his promotion of debunked claims linking childhood vaccines to autism. His suggestion that HIV does not cause AIDS and accusations that he stoked anti-measles vaccine sentiment in Samoa during the 2019 visit, months before a deadly outbreak.
During the confirmation hearing, Democrats took turns confronting RFK Jr. with past statements that contradicted his claims, while also accusing him of hypocrisy over his sudden reversal on abortion.
Mr. Kennedy, and my final question, did you say on a podcast, and I quote, "I wouldn't leave abortion, to the states. My belief is we should leave it to the woman. We shouldn't have the government involved, even if it's full term." Did you say that, Mr. Kennedy?
Senator, I believe that every abortion is a tragedy.
Did you say it, Mr. Kennedy? This matters. It doesn't matter what you come here and say that isn't true.
Now, ahead of the hearing, Kennedy's cousin Caroline Kennedy wrote in a scathing letter to senators and urged them in a video posted on social media platform X to reject his nomination to lead the nation's top health agency,
calling him a predator and his healthcare views as dangerous.
Bobby, my whole life, we grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. He's always been charismatic, able to attract others through the strength of his personality, his willingness to take risks and break the rules. I watch his younger brothers and cousins follow him down the path of drug addiction. His basement, his garage, his dorm room were always the center of the action.
Senators are set to continue questioning Kennedy on Thursday. Kennedy initially launched an independent bid in 2024 presidential election. However, over 2 months ahead of the polls, he decided to endorse Trump, dropping out of the race.
With my career, today Americans' overall health is in grievous condition. Over 70% of adults and a third of children are obese.
Shifting our focus to West Asia, Israel said on Wednesday that 11 more hostages held in Gaza, including 5 Thai nationals, would be freed this week as a part of the Gaza ceasefire deal.
This announcement came shortly after Hamas officials had accused Israel of delaying aid deliveries to Gaza and jeopardizing the agreement.
3 Israeli hostages to be freed on Thursday are Arbel Yehud Agam Berger and 80-year-old Gadi Moses. The identities of the 5 Thai nationals are still unknown. According to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, a 4th swap planned for Saturday will see 3 Israeli men released.
Israel is expected to free a number of high-profile prisoners in exchange for the 3 Israeli hostages. According to Israeli media, of the 110 prisoners to be released, 33 are serving life terms for deadly attacks, 47 are serving long prison terms, and the remaining 30 are women and minors.
Prisoners will be transported to 2 main reception points, Ofer and Kidzot prisons, before being released or deported. Hamas has so far released 7 hostages, with 290 prisoners freed in exchange.
No prisoners will be exchanged for the 5 Thai hostages slated to be freed once they are being released under a separate agreement between Hamas and Thailand.
With the ceasefire in place, UN's humanitarian body said that more than 376,000 Palestinians displaced by the war between Israel and Hamas returned to northern Gaza.
I am now 30 years old, and this is the first time that I am out of words to describe how I feel because of how happy and sad I feel at the same time.
After Israel permitted Palestinians to enter Gaza amid the ongoing ceasefire, thousands of men, women and children were seen heading north, knowing well that waiting for them is nothing but the rubble of their homes.
I'm determined to put my tent on the ruins of my home. And throughout my time in displacement, I kept saying that I will put my tent on top of the ruins of my home. And indeed now, I am setting my tent on top of the rubble of my home. And despite everything, we will remain a resilient people.
According to reports, U.S. President Donald Trump's West Asia envoy Steve Witkoff entered Gaza on Wednesday. The visit came before meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem. Israel, meanwhile, is continuing with its offensive in West Bank. On Wednesday, the Palestinian Health Ministry said that an Israeli airstrike killed at least 10 Palestinians in West Bank. Israeli military said that the attack targeted armed militants.
And 2 months after the fall of the Bashar al-Assad regime, Syria officially has a new leader.
The de facto leader and head Ahmed al-Shara has been declared as the president for a transitional phase. The change in power dynamics comes less than 2 months after he led a campaign that toppled the Assad regime.
And according to an announcement by the military command, Shara was also empowered to form a temporary legislative council for the transitional period.
The announcements came during a conference on the victory of the Syrian revolution that was also attended by Shara, Foreign Minister Asad al-Shibani and the heads of armed factions. Now, during the conference, Shara laid out key priorities for the war-torn nation.
Syria's priorities today are: first, filling the power vacuum legitimately and legally; second, preserving civil peace by striving to achieve transitional justice and preventing acts of revenge; third, building state institutions, especially the military, security and police, because preserving people's security takes precedence over any other consideration.
The new authorities also announced the dissolution of all armed groups involved in the ouster of former President Bashar al-Assad last month. Former government's army and security agencies also dissolved. News agency Sana, quoting military official Hassan Abdul Ghani, said all military factions are dissolved and integrated into state institutions.
The Syrian authorities also announced the dissolution of Assad-era Baath Party. Apart from this, constitution was suspended and the parliament was dissolved as well.
And with that, it's time now to slip into a short break. We're leaving you with all the stories which are making headlines across the globe. Take a look.
India's Budget 2025 is here. Will it fuel growth or deepen inflation's bite? Will it support the rupee and markets? From tax reforms to middle-class relief, we decode what's in it for you. Stay ahead with our expert analysis and global perspective.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Lots lined up for you on this side of the show. Let's get started with the headlines first.
Judicial probe ordered after stampede at world's largest religious gathering killed at least 30 people. The tragedy took place after surging crowds spilled out and trampled bystanders at the Kumbh Mela on a day which saw over 75 million take the holy dip.
Today, I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it.
US President Donald Trump signs a Laken Riley Act against illegal immigrants, says he plans to detain 30,000 criminal illegal aliens at Guantanamo Bay military prison.
President of the Democratic Republic of Congo says his military is undertaking a vigorous response as Rwanda-backed fighters advance in the east, condemns inaction of the international community.
Rebel leader Ahmad al-Shara appointed interim president of Syria after meeting of military commanders. All armed factions dissolved, constitution suspended.
Indian carrier Air India announces to resume its non-stop services between New Delhi and Tel Aviv from March 2nd.
Manchester City survivor scare against Club Brugge in the final group game of the Champions League. The 2023 winners will now face either holders Real Madrid or Bayern Munich in the playoff.
Tragedy struck at the heart of humanity's largest religious gathering as a devastating stampede claimed 30 lives and left nearly 90 injured at the sacred Kumbh Mela festival in India's Prayagraj.
The stampede took place on a day when over 75 million people took a holy dip at the holy Sangam waters in the city. The state government has formed a 3-member judicial commission that's headed to look into the matter.
The 3-member judicial probe team will be headed by a retired Justice of High Court. In a notification issued later, the government stated that the probe would cover 2 points. Number 1, finding out the reasons and circumstances that caused the incident and to give suggestions about preventing such happenings in the future. The commission has been given 1 month to submit the report.
The incident unfolded in the pre-dawn darkness as thousands of devotees surged towards the holy rivers, trampling other pilgrims in their path. Confirming the death toll, the police says 25 people have been identified while 5 others are being identified.
Eyewitnesses say crowds surged for a dip at the confluence of the 3 rivers that is considered particularly sacred.
पहली भिड़िया जैसे आई तो के और जाई तो के सब एकदम रहला हम साइड में रहली वो जौन आवत वडा नहाए हमन के नहा जात रहली वही में इन्होंने मोटरिया का फरिया लेके गिर जाता था अच्छा बुढ़ावे उड़ावे
Prime Minister Modi condoled the deaths, assuring all help to the victims.
आज की चुनाव सभा को संबोधन करने से पहले मैं महाकुंभ में जो दुखद हादसा हुआ है उस हादसे में हमें कुछ पुण्यात्माओं को खोना पड़ा है, कई लोगों को चोटें भी आई हैं। मैं प्रभावित परिवारों के प्रति संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं।
Just for sheer scale, the congregation is mind-boggling. The expected 400 million pilgrims dwarf the combined populations of the US and Russia, creating a temporary metropolis of faith that astronauts can witness from space.
Now, Prayagraj, the holy site, is situated at the mystical confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna rivers, where the mythical Saraswati is believed to flow invisibly.
The ritual bathing has profound spiritual significance. Each immersion in the sacred waters is believed to cleanse sins accumulated over lifetimes, with the merit multiplied manyfold during this auspicious period.
As authorities investigate the tragedy and strengthen safety protocols across the 650-kilometer network of temporary roads, the spiritual fervor remains undiminished. The Kumbh Mela stands as a living testament to an unbroken tradition spanning millennia, where faith transcends human limitations and the material world briefly touches the divine.
In India, a court in the state of Rajasthan has issued a significant verdict impacting the lives of couples in live-in relationships.
Now, a High Court judge has made it mandatory for people in a live-in relationship to enter a contractual agreement.
On Wednesday, Justice Anup Kumar Dhand ordered government officials to establish a system that oversees the legalities of two people living together, signing a contract with certain provisions.
According to the details of the court order, the contract should contain two main clauses. First is fixing liability of the male and female partners in the form of child plan to bear the education, health and upbringing responsibility of the children born out of such relationships. Second, fixing liability of the male partner for maintenance of the non-earning female partner residing in such relations and children born out of such relationships.
Other takeaways from the hearing urge the state government of Rajasthan to enact a legal framework for live-in relationships, which is similar to the Uniform Civil Code legislation passed by Uttarakhand government. Secondly, the High Court judge has also said that a larger bench will decide whether married people in live-in relationships are entitled to police protection or not.
At least 75 Rohingya refugees were not allowed to disembark on a tourist beach in western Indonesia.
The refugees had arrived by boat at a tourist beach. The Rohingya are heavily persecuted in Myanmar, and thousands risk their lives each year on long and dangerous sea journeys to reach Malaysia or Indonesia. The latest group of refugees, including 4 children, arrived on a beach in Aceh province. Security officers prevented the refugees from disembarking and ordered them to stay aboard the boat. Military and police officers were deployed to monitor the beach, while local residents took pictures of the boat and provided the refugees with food.
Rohingya arrivals in Indonesia tend to follow a cyclical pattern, slowing during the stormy winter months, then picking up back when sea conditions calm down.
More than 260 Rohingya refugees arrived on a beach earlier this month. More than 100 refugees were rescued after their boat sank off the coast of East Aceh in November last year. In October, 152 Rohingya refugees were brought ashore after being anchored for days off the coast of South Aceh district, while officials decided whether to let them land or not.
Indonesia is not a signatory to the UN Refugee Convention and says it cannot be compelled to take in refugees from Myanmar, calling instead on neighboring countries to share the burden and resettle the Rohingyas who arrive on its shores.
Meanwhile, a dark void has torn open in our star's surface, posing an unprecedented threat to Earth's technological infrastructure.
Scientists warn that this colossal coronal hole spanning the width of 60 Earths could unleash chaos on our planet's magnetic field. And our next report has all the details on this. Take a look.
The sun, the great guardian of our solar system, burns with an unrelenting fire, sustaining all life on Earth. For billions of years, the celestial heartbeat of our existence has been a steady source of warmth and energy. But even the sun has tempers, and right now, it is seething with fury. A colossal gaping hole, 800,000 kilometers wide, has opened up on its surface. These images show the hole large enough to swallow at least 60 Earths. This vast void, known as a coronal hole, is unleashing torrents of solar wind, blasting charged particles directly toward our planet. Scientists warn this could trigger powerful geomagnetic storms, disrupting satellites, power grids, and radio communications. Initial predictions suggest moderate geomagnetic storms Experts say the solar wind's intensity has thus far remained relatively subdued. This enormous coronal hole, an unusually large one for this phase of the solar cycle, appeared near the sun's equator. Unlike the bright, fiery surface of the sun, coronal holes appear as dark patches. They are cooler, less dense regions where the sun's magnetic field has opened, allowing high-speed solar wind to escape. Charged particles from this solar wind are racing toward Earth. While initial forecasts suggested a moderate G2 geomagnetic storm, early readings indicate a weaker impact so far. But experts sound a note of caution, the emergence of a coronal hole at the equator. So close to solar maximum is an anomaly, one that space scientists are scrambling to understand. With the sun growing more unpredictable, Earth braces for what could come next.
Now, DeepSeek's low-cost artificial intelligence platform has served as a reality check to world's leading tech giants.
The Chinese AI startup success has ignited a conversation in India over the potential for domestic AI businesses to benefit from this trend.
Now, many Indian businesses are already working on AI solutions in-house or through strategic alliances. No clear frontrunners have emerged yet. Still, potential benefactors have been identified by Anand Rathi analysts as LTI, Mindtree and Laken View Analytics. According to the broker, Laken View has a leg up in the AI preparedness game and also has a small but significant investment in an AI platform.
Indian investors are also going through domestic AI winners after China's DeepSeek created waves in the tech world. DeepSeek released an open source AI model called R1 that can simulate human reasoning. The Chinese AI firm has raised a fierce debate, challenging everyone's assumptions about AI costs.
Now, US mega tech firms have invested well over $1.2 trillion since 2017 in infrastructure. Besides what Nvidia and energy firms have spent on AI, Amazon has put in more than $420 billion. Google, Meta and Microsoft have spent over $220 billion each. Oracle has invested nearly $60 billion. On the other hand, DeepSeek claims its model was developed with less than $6 million.
While DeepSeek led a market rout of more than $1 trillion on Monday, global tech stocks have since spared some of those losses. Still, experts warn the wealth loss could have a bigger impact on broader economies globally. Separately, several indicators of market health point to Monday's abrupt drop being largely a hit to the world's largest tech companies and shares of AI-related stocks. Yet looking beyond tech heavyweights, a majority of S&P 500 stocks ended the day higher and have continued to gain. Still, DeepSeek's success is all said to rejig the global approach to AI and big tech firms. "2025 has been a volatile year for global equities.
With uncertainty around Trump's tariffs and the impact it could have on shareholder returns, we look at the opportunities as well as the risks in key markets. Take a look.
Global investors are rethinking their approach to China. Once seen as a long-term growth engine, China's market is now viewed as a trading opportunity for quick gains. According to Goldman Sachs analysts, investors are adopting a wait-and-see approach, hesitating to commit until there's clarity on US-China relations and Beijing's policies. This shift is evident in market movements. In September, China's benchmark stock index surged 40% in 2 weeks after promises of stimulus. And by October, hedge funds had exited and the gains evaporated. The CSI 300 index, which tracks top Chinese stocks, has lost half its recent gains and is now at the same levels as a decade ago. It is already down 3% in January alone. Meanwhile, investor sentiment has weakened significantly. A Bank of America survey shows only 10% of fund managers expect a stronger Chinese economy in a year, down from 61% just 3 months ago. Nearly a quarter say they are now underweight on China, reflecting a broader loss of confidence in the country's economic outlook. China's economic recovery remains fragile, and Beijing's policy response has failed to reassure investors. The government has introduced measures to restructure local government debts and increase central borrowing, but details remain unclear. As a result, China's markets are stuck in a cycle of volatility. India has emerged as an alternative investment destination for global investors. While Indian stocks have corrected from their recent highs, brokerages are still positive on the country's long-term potential. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
All right, let's now take a look at developments from the world of technology. As Chinese AI platform DeepSeek continues to make headlines globally, Jack Ma's Alibaba Group has released a new version of its own 2.5 artificial intelligence model, which it claims can outperform OpenAI's GPT-4o, DeepSeek V3, among other AI chatbots. While Alibaba did not share any information regarding the development costs, the company did reveal their new model uses similar techniques to DeepSeek, including a mixture of experts approach. This technique delegates tasks to specialized AI experts, reducing the strain on processing power and allowing for more efficient training.
Moving on to another AI model with over 353 million downloads to date, OpenAI's ChatGPT continues to be the most popular AI chatbot globally. But according to a report by app analytics firm Appy Figures, the app is more popular with certain demographic groups than others. As per the report, over half of ChatGPT's mobile users are under the age of 25, indicating that perhaps young people are more open to experimenting with new technology. The gender gap among ChatGPT users is even wider. The report suggests that men make up around 84% of all users, suggesting that women might be less enthusiastic about the mass adoption of AI as they are more vulnerable to the evil side of this technology, like sexually explicit deepfake images.
EU is considering a ban on video game equipment sales to Russia to stop the country's armed forces from using them to control drones sent to Ukraine. The ban covers consoles, flight simulator controllers, joysticks and any device capable of remote drone operations. While major console makers like Microsoft, Nintendo and Sony halted sales to Russia in 2022, the proposed ban is targeted towards resellers who send gaming consoles to Russia. It's worth noting that the proposed ban may have limited effect on Russia since Chinese-made controllers are readily available in the market. And according to Trade Data Monitor, China's gaming console exports to Russia surged to over $120 million in 2024.
Shifting our focus to the world of sports now, seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton escaped unhurt after crashing during Ferrari's pre-season testing in Barcelona. The 40-year-old, who officially began his two-year Ferrari contract last week, lost control of the 2023 car and hit the barriers at the Circuit de Catalunya.